We are reading in the writings of Rabash the article, What is Making a Covenant in the Work? You can find the study material at cab.tv. You can also ask questions there. Selected questions will be asked during the lesson. The writings of Rabash, What is Making a Covenant in the Work?
There's a point that we have from which we start developing. And that point is called the covenant. Everything that happens afterwards in our entire development is in order to develop that point. We always have to see that we guard that point and that we develop it specifically and nothing outside of it. This is a very unique kind of approach to the wisdom of Kabbalah, and it's intended in order to guard us from taking all kinds of directions, where humanity starts with the initial point and then moves to all kinds of directions, thinking that it should change things all the time or discover new things that didn't exist before and that are based on what appears in each moment, meaning there's no foundation. It rather changes incidentally. And that's the mistake that we have in human society and its development, meaning it develops according to the will to receive that comes from the shattering from different parts of it and different combinations of the broken pieces. There's no incident, no chance, but it's according to the combination of broken pieces. And the point of covenant is a point that includes both the beginning and the end of the path. And what happens afterwards in our development is only standing guard, where in all of the developing and appearing states of the broken states, we maintain these 2 points. There's also this article called 2 Points. And then we truly come to the goal. And the stretching of the time and the confusions that we go through in the path, all of that comes from not guarding specifically, precisely that point of covenant. And with that point of covenant, we need to understand that specifically there, all of the effort of our teachers is aimed at to make us stick to the foundations so that we don't veer off the path. We see it with ourselves, we especially see it with groups that sometimes some deviation begins from the path. They think that what comes up in their mind or heart is real. They forget it's coming from the broken vessels, and on top of what appears in their mind and heart, they need to overcome and guard the foundation. And that work will become tougher and tougher to repeat the foundations in the writings of Rabash and Bara Sulam and all the Kabbalists, and not escape that, not turn the wisdom of Kabbalah to some social, sociological exercises or other practices. It's a big mistake where people in groups begin to think they have their own reason to change things, and that what awakens in them is a matter of correction before entering the spiritual awareness and even going through a few degrees in it, and then knowing what to do or not to do. So in short, the problem of making the covenant is throughout the path. With each and every point of the path, we have to return to the same covenant, and then we can be sure that we are going straight towards the final purpose of creation, the purpose of creation and the final correction. Let's see what Rabash writes.
What is making a covenant in the work? It is written that you may enter into the covenant with the Lord your God, which the Lord your God is making with you today. Rashi interprets that you may enter into the covenant as in passing. Thus would the makers of the covenant do, a partition here and a partition from here, and they pass in between. The writing also says there, and not with you alone am I making this covenant, but with those who stand here with us today before the Lord our God, and with those who are not with us here today. We should understand the following. 1. What is the meaning of making a covenant in the work? That is, what does making a covenant give us by which we will have correction in the work?
Let's just describe for a second. If we each would guard that point, the initial point that takes us to the inner development, then no one would leave the wisdom of Kabbalah. Everyone would develop. Why do people leave? Because according to the mind and heart that appears in them as various disturbances for their progress, they just follow the disturbances and disappear. It's like a person who's supposed to go straight in his path, and all of a sudden there's a flashlight on that side and noise on the other side, and it pulls him in different directions, and he forgets. He doesn't put the importance on the final goal that is ahead of him. So the gravity of the covenant, or lack thereof, leads to a great iniquity, that we go into spiritual development and come out of it and finish our life without any use. It means that in our work, if a person insists on the direction of correcting his soul, he'll always feel himself dealing with all kinds of unimportant things, that there is something more important. That's deliberate, to always take care of the greatness of the goal, the greatness of the reward, the greatness of the teacher, the greatness of the group, to always work on the greatness, because to the extent of greatness, he could hold on to the path and advance. So it's not a wonder that over time we begin to disregard these discernments and all of this supporters, all these supporters, without increasing the greatness of the group, the goal, the path, the teacher. Without it, we won't be able to advance. We'll always go outwards and feel that we're right and justify ourselves. And first I thought it's something great, unique, and special, and now I see that it's not exactly like that. And it's true, that's how he feels, but he forgot that he is supposed to make these things greater in his eyes again and again, because the Shimot from the shattering arise, and then accordingly he has to increase the greatness of the correction and the means for that correction, and that's what he has to make sure that he does. And therefore we see what happening with the groups and everything, but it's true, it's a sign of progress, but that's given to us from above. From below we have to complete these, to complement these symbols by working, these signs, by working on the greatness, the importance of the goal, the teacher, the group.